going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. We have a special one for you today. I feel like I say that every time, but every time we pour something up here, I feel like it is a special pour. This is Stagg Jr. You've probably heard of it. There's a reason we're pouring this up today, which we're going to go over in this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week, so make sure you stick around for that. But everybody knows before we get started, time for the traditional sip. Whew! It's hot. So this is Stagg Jr. You have probably heard of this. This comes out of Sazerac. You know all about it. Buffalo Trace. This is the infamous Stagg Jr. This is the little brother to the George T. Stagg, which is part of the Buffalo Trace BTAC lineup. BTAC standing for Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. Didn't know that myself. I love to stick to my roots on this, and this is learning something every day. So that's what BTAC is. That's what we've got here for Stagg Jr. This is said to be in that 6 to 8 year range, although it's non-age stated. It's an undisclosed mash bill as well, but we also know that this is mash bill number 1 from Buffalo Trace. There's different mash bills from Buffalo Trace. They don't technically disclose them, but people figured them out and know that this is about 10% or less when it comes to the rye on this. So it's a low rye when it comes to the mash bill on this, which is interesting because when I first drank this, not tonight, but in general, I would have thought it was a high rye mash bill, but that's probably because this is coming in at a whopping 130.2 proof. So this is one of the highest proof bourbons I've had. I think I've had one Elijah Craig barrel proof higher, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that. But the Elijah Craig barrel proof gets up there. But 130 is pushing the top of the line. There obviously can be higher proofs when it comes to that. But it doesn't, not too often you run across something that high. So you know the rules that we have on this channel. We use price, taste, drinkability, 3 different categories to figure out where this is going to fall on our ranking sheet. We value it out of 10 for each category. We average them out and we see where this falls. This one, we're going to start with drinkability as always, and at 130.2 proof. So the interesting thing about the Stagg Juniors is to look up which batch you have. You basically have to go online and see what proof you have. So I was like, how do you know what proof or what batch this is? Doesn't say batch 14 anywhere on here, but if you go online, you can look it up, batch 14, 130.2 proof. So if you go on there, it'll tell you batch 15, batch 16, batch 12, batch 8, whatever you have, just look it up, match it to your proof, and that's how you're going to know what batch you have. So at 130.2 proof, for drinkability on this, it's tough because it definitely drinks hot. Don't tell me it doesn't drink hot. I don't care how long you've been drinking bourbon. I don't care. If you can't taste the heat on this, then there's something wrong with your taste buds and you got to get something looked at. Because there's some heat on this. And at being that low rye mash bill, you can't blame it on any type of the rye. Although I am getting a lot of spices and stuff that we'll talk about when we come to taste on this. But for me personally, as somebody who does enjoy a higher proof bourbon, I like to think of myself in that 100 maybe like 109 to 115 proof range. Anything over 115 definitely starts to get into that. Maybe I want to throw an ice cube in it. Now I won't. To all the bourbon people out there that say don't put an ice cube in George T. Stagg, do what you want. I'm not that type of person to tell you how you should drink yours. I think this would be great with a couple of drops of water or even an ice cube in it, personally. I digress. 130.2 proof. I'm going to take one more sip and we're going to give this a score on drinkability. Oh, you ever swallow wrong? It hits the back of the throat. Doesn't help with that drinkability at all. I'm going to give this a pretty good score on drinkability still, even though I just talked all of that about how it does have heat. You got to realize this is as barrel strength as it gets at 130.2 proof. I'm going to give this like an 8.66 when it comes to drinkability on this. Not quite in the 9s because it does have some heat, but an 8.66 is where we're going to put it. So next we're going to get into taste on this, and the taste on this is where this bottle's really going to shine. So I struggled at the beginning of my bourbon drinking experience to really appreciate the bottle that this is. The reason that it's only half empty and I bought this in 2020 is because I didn't appreciate it. I couldn't get past the ethanol. I really didn't understand what the hype was about. Now as I progressed, I started to pick up a couple heavy hitter bottles. The Rare Breed 114, the Old Forester 115 proof. Those bottles start to work you into something where you can take this 130 proof, and trust me, I'm not all the way there yet. This still does have that ethanol kick for me. But you can start to pick out the flavors of this rather than just that ethanol kick. And this bottle is absolutely amazing at what it can do flavor-wise. The vanilla's in this, the caramel's in this, and the brown sugar in this. The sweetness is crazy. It has a little bit of a cherry note. Now, I've heard a lot of people say Stagg Jr. is a cherry bomb. I don't get that personally here, and I'm usually pretty good at picking out cherries, such as the Old Forester lineup. This one, though, for me, had a little bit of cherry for sure, but that that honey in this, like a sweetness when it comes to the honey, the viscosity, the mouthfeel, it all just pulls together and is so well blended and so well balanced. Like Buffalo Trace is known for, it just puts together an experience here that you gotta try out if you're ready to try it out. If you're not ready to try it out, put a couple of drops of water in this. I promise you, you'll start to pick out some of these flavors that you never knew were there before because it's hiding behind all of that heat. That being said, I'm going to give this one of the better scores when it comes to taste on this. I'm going to put this up at a 9.57, and I think that's where it deserves to be. Again, if I was younger in my career when it came to drinking bourbon, I'd probably give this a terrible score both on drinkability and on taste. But where I'm at now, I can truly appreciate something like this, and I got to give it the 9.57 I think it deserves. Last but not least, we're going to get in a price on this, and this MSRP is at around $60. Now, I know what you're thinking, Chris, there's no way you got this for $60, and you'd be wrong. I actually got 2 of these bottles for $60. Gave one to a friend for giving me a couple of bottles out of his collection, called it even, not knowing what I had at the time, but at the same time, not regretting it, because that's what this experience is all about. Meeting people, sharing bottles, sharing experiences. So I got this. I stumbled into a Fine Wine and Good Spirits before they put this online. The gentleman, I was asking for something else. The gentleman was like, listen, we don't have that anymore, but we just got these bottles in. I can sell you 2 of them if you want them. I said, don't know anything about it. Let me grab it. This was literally back before I even knew what I was buying when it came to Stagg Jr. That's how crazy this story is. The price on this at $60 MSRP is crazy. This was basically... It's basically out there competing with like Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. Now, I think the quality of this is much higher than Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, but you know how I already feel about Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. I don't know, Larceny Barrel Proof is out there as well, but that's a weeder. So like there's not a lot competing with Stagg Jr., especially when it comes to the name brand behind it. This is basically... once it hits the shelves, it's gone. There's not a lot of... this is a hunting bourbon. This is a unicorn bourbon. You're not usually finding this the way that I do, stumbling across it. And if you are, you're usually paying 2, maybe 3 times retail on this. And that's not what I do. I don't pay those outlandish prices for bottles just because, 1, I can't afford them, and 2, I don't know if it's worth it until I open it up. That being said, at $60, that's really... it's a fantastic price for this. A 6 to 8 year old bourbon... cash strength, barrel strength, whatever, barrel proof, whatever you want to call it, at 130 proof. Delicious, easy drinkability when you're comparing it to the proof. So for price on this, I'm going to give this, we got to put it in the 9s again at $60. I'm going to give it like a 9.28 when it comes to price on this. So listen, while I add these scores up, let's send it over to this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week and talk about Stagg Jr. because you might not know this, but something's happening. So for this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week, we're going to talk about Stagg Jr. and we're going to start you off with the facts, and then we're going to get into a little bit of an opinion. And let me just preface all of this by saying this is strictly an opinion once I tell you it's opinion. Fact. Batch 17 will be the last batch of Stagg Jr. They're actually going to drop the junior name when it comes to the Stagg Jr. lineup. It's just going to be called Stagg. So George T. Stagg is the BTAC collection that we talked about before. This is like the younger brother. This is the son of George T. Stagg. This is Stagg Jr. And for that, they put out a great product here, 6 to 8 years old rather than that 15-year range like George T. Stagg is. And they barrel strength it, 130. Everything about this says that it's George T. Stagg Jr. But they're dropping the junior off this, and this is coming right after they told us that they're not putting out a George T. Stagg 2021 BTAC Collection Edition. Now, those are the facts. 18 will officially be called Stagg. 17 will be the last Stagg Jr. Those are the facts. This is the opinion. In my opinion, what had happened was they decided George T. Stagg didn't live up to the name, so they were going to get rid of George T. Stagg this year, and now they're going to bottle it as Stagg, or at least they're going to use that. They're not going to throw away that product, right? And they're not going to put it in Benchmark or Ancient Age or anything like that. But they need a product that they can sell it at, and they can probably sell it out with the current market demand for something like Stagg or Stagg Jr. or George T. Stagg, a pretty high price. So they can now take this Stagg Jr., which was $60, put a little bit of that George T. Stagg that they didn't do this year, drop the junior, get a whole new bottle going, raise the price to, I don't know, $90, $100 if they want, put that on the shelf, and they know it's going to sell out. They can put an age behind it. They can leak an age saying this is at 12 years old. Whatever they want to do. They're the best company in the world, if you ask me, when it comes to marketing bourbons. And I don't think they're going to mess this up. They're not throwing away the George T. Stagg. It's not like they're not going to have enough to keep the Stagg Jr. line going. So what's the deal? Dropping George T. Stagg from 2021 in the same year, telling us that you're getting rid of Stagg Jr.? Something's going on there. Somebody in marketing made a lot of money off this decision. Again, this is all speculation. I have no idea. I don't have any contacts at Buffalo Trace. I'm just coming up with ideas off what I think. And that's what I think they're doing. Let me know in the comments what you think. So that's just what I think on this Stagg Jr. Again, don't quote me on any of that stuff. This is just speculation, a little bit of conversation piece for your next dinner. But this Stagg Jr. came in on batch 14 at a 9.17. I actually thought this was going to take the #1 spot, but it still falls short to my favorite of all time, the most consistent bottle that I've had. Henry McKenna 10-year, the single barrel bottled and bond. It's just a fantastic pour. And at $50 compared to $60, it's just right there on everything. Stagg Jr. though, not a bad pickup. If you do currently find maybe batch 16 out right now or batch 17, which will be the last one before batch 18, definitely pick up a bottle. You don't need me to tell you that. You probably knew that all on your own. But that's where we're going to leave you for this week. Make sure you click that like. Make sure you click that subscribe. Also follow us on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Every Tuesday at 4 p.m. we drop an image of the bourbon that we're going to review. You can go on and try and guess my score. If you guess the closest, I'll give you a shout out on the channel, as well as enter you in some monthly prizes for some cool things such as custom Glencairns. We have hoodies. We have t-shirts. We're getting hats on the way. So make sure you follow us on Instagram. If you want to support us on Patreon, we would love that. We do a bunch of stuff on the Patreon. We have a Discord as well. Come chat with us. Both of those links are in the description below. In the meantime, though, please don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly. And stay healthy, stay happy, stay drinking. Cheers, y'all. It's so good.